Hey, my name is Sam Furman, and this is my video review about Solomon's CEO 10 Million Plus by Mark Overson. It's a informational course for entrepreneurs, and not just for any entrepreneurs, but people who really want to go on and build, $1 million plus business. And in code two, there's at least he's creating the course as we're going through. We're kind of the first people to get a crack at it. But in code two, it refers to something called Futuristic Otaku. And Otaku, Otaku, Otaku is a Japanese word for a unique obsession. So what this module is about is crafting having a futuristic obsession, or crafting a unique obsession about the future, about your future. And what I found interesting about this course, and I'm looking down my notes here because I have a lot to talk about, is that it fits all these different codes, they all fit together. So in the last video, you can watch a review about code one, which was the supremacy of speed, and the second one here, which is Futuristic Otaku, how they all fit together. And in Futuristic Otaku, Mark, he starts off the course talking about and referencing scripture. And, I'm not particularly religious, and maybe you aren't either, or maybe you are. But what I think is interesting about this course as we continue on, even despite whatever your religious views or beliefs are, the stories and the examples in this are timeless, and they're really good to learn from. So Mark, he references Adam walking in the garden, and God spoke to him. And essentially, the first thing that really gets talked about is having a secret place to listen. Somewhere you can be in motion. So, and he challenges people to go ahead and find 5 local secret spots, somewhere where you can go. Maybe it's a park, somewhere outside, maybe somewhere remote or only that you know about, somewhere that you can go, you can walk to receive information, whether it's from you want to call it from God, infinite intelligence, or a higher source, or whatever your beliefs are. Just being in motion, there's something that happens, and I've tried this today, that versus just sitting in a stuffy, stagnant office versus going for a walk and getting inspired. It's a beautiful spring day here in Austin, and I went for a walk in a local park, and I just closed my eyes for a bit and just kind of imagined what and how my life would be different when bills and having to take care of the day-to-day minutia, that stuff is covered, and stepping into a more powerful place. And that was huge, to be able to just clear my mind, imagine that, and to receive, be open to reception from that infinite intelligence of thoughts and ideas about my business. So very powerful stuff. And he challenges people to find their top 5. And getting into that, the first quote that he gives with Futuristic Otaku is, "Where there is no vision, the people cast off restraint, but happy is he who keeps the law." So by going to your secret place, you create vision, and you're able to start crafting that future. The next thing that Mark talks about is really getting into, as for a marketer or as an entrepreneur, really diving in and finding the best possible future results for someone who fully engages in your product. And he gives a great example about a pen. A lot of people could just hold up a pen and say, "Hey, it's just a pen," or "This is just whatever XYZ product." And Mark, he goes on to talk about how he actually is in the pen business for one of his companies, and he gives an example of, hey, I imagine this happening. Maybe you're signing $1 million checks with this pen one day as your business grows. That eventually this will be a pen that you use to sign your marriage license and so on. He just really goes deep with this example, and just shows you what's possible when you really delve into um, your product and think of the best possible outcome for somebody using your product. And it's not just making money, like it goes deeper than that. So, or having, some kind of specific result. There's typically your product is only a means to an end, right? People don't necessarily want it, they want the result of that. So he kind of walks you through how to get there and how to figure out, to help you brainstorm to figure out what those deeper possible best results are, because that's going to help give you vision. Okay. And for me, I know that was really powerful. Another thing that Mark talks about is, he gives a quote: "Take the vision, write it down on tablets, so that he who reads it may run with it." That's a scripture paraphrasing, but essentially, the importance of alleviating the creative burden from if you're in an enterprise where you're building a team, and for most people that's the case, unless you're a sole or someone who works for themselves, and even in that case you have other people who are assisting you, that it's important to write down step-by-step directions for everything. Have processes, and this gets into the 4-Hour Work Week. If you've never read that book, you should Google it or go on Amazon and get it, or go to your library and get it. And it talks about having processes and how everything, when it's written down as crystal clear as humanly possible, that alleviates a creative burden. People often get frustrated because they can't figure out how to do something. So when you have a step-by-step guidebook for people to follow, your business can really flourish. And that's one thing that was a big takeaway for me. You should never require your team to do anything that they can't do. And he goes more into that. So what's really great, and like the other review, is that there's always an integration plan for this. So there's things that he wants you to do, to start planning these things out, or, craft your first step-by-step example of having it, and something for your team or your buyer or your staff to do upon purchasing or joining your company. He kind of goes through that, how it's important to practice, start implementing these ideas, immediately into your business and get comfortable with that. And the next thing, let's see here. Mark talks about, he gives it the paraphrase, the quote from Proverbs, about the plans of the diligent surely lead to profit, but just as haste surely leads to poverty. So the plans of the diligent surely lead to profit, just as haste surely leads to poverty. And by diligent, I mean determined, resilient, fast, productive, efficient people. They live in the future. They're always asking themselves questions about the future. And it goes into some integration exercises and talks a little bit more about this, but essentially crafting that futuristic otaku, having that obsession about the future, asking your questions, always, asking questions about the future, and I think there's a clear distinction that needs to be made here, is that while that's super important, what he's not advocating is, always fantasizing or dreaming into the future. There's a really important element about the power of now, the presence of now, because even when you're in the future, you arrive at the future now. Like, now is always where we are. But by having this futuristic otaku, you're creating a plan, right? And then you have that plan to follow and to guide you and to guide your team. So that's kind of my quick video summary and review of Futuristic Otaku Code 2 by Mark Overson. You can check out my full video blog post, which we're going to dive a lot deeper into these things that I just talked about here. And I'm looking forward to Code 3, which I'll be doing a review on that here tomorrow. So check back or go ahead and click on video 3 or Code 3 to hear my video review summary about that. And we'll see you next time.